Hey there, welcome. My name is Lou Diamond, speaker, consultant, podcaster, and author of Speakeasy. You know, in the original Speakeasies, it was real important to stay very quiet, so the police couldn't hear where your clandestine special nightclub was. Well, here, at this Speakeasy, we encourage conversations. You see, I believe that every connection begins with a great conversation. In fact, at this establishment, and in my book, Speakeasy, I've put together the tips, tricks, techniques, blends, mixtures, and concoctions that you need to make more of your conversations great. Whether you're a professional looking to grow your business, a leader looking to connect to your people, or an individual looking to grow your own personal connections, the lessons you'll learn in Speakeasy will help you connect, engage, and win in all of your conversations.
Now it's 3 a.m, and I'm trying to change your mind. Left you multiple missed calls, and to my message you reply, "Why do you only call me when you're listening to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond?"
Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. I'm kind of amped up for this one. This is a long time coming, Thrive Loud listeners, because today we have a customer experience and digital marketing pioneer, expert, advisor, researcher, and analyst. Yes, he puts all those things on his description on his webpage. He spent nearly 30 years, which doesn't look possible with his hairline because he looks younger than that, helping the world's most iconic brands gain and keep more customers. He's a 7th-generation entrepreneur. He's written 6 best-selling books. He's founded 5 multi-million-dollar businesses. He's a Hall of Fame professional speaker, creator of multiple award-winning podcasts. He loves plaid suits and very interesting shirts. He's a licensed tequila sommelier and a certified barbecue judge. Who doesn't want to hang with this guy at a food and beverage festival, by the way? Thrive Loud listeners, the man, the myth, the legend, Jay Baer. Jay, how are you today?
Lou, what is up? Thank you for that staggeringly truthful, but also ostentatious introduction. I'm delighted to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
It's going to be a ton of fun. And for the listeners, you need to know all that ostentatious stuff is on his own page. So I just took it. And
when you have your mom write your bio, Lou, that's what happens. That's my advice. Everybody out there, have your mom write your bio.
Do you think that should be a good task? That would be a great marketing task. Everybody writes their own bio, gets professional people, and then hand it to their mom and see what she comes back with.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good tactic. Listeners who heard all those amazing things and are watching here on the YouTube feed, I want to make it clear. We're amongst greatness here. We're going to have a lot of fun. We have a lot of energy. You could tell by the way Jay looks here. So I don't want to go all the way back to the womb because his mom would not appreciate it. But also along the lines is I want to dive into something that will bring people up to speed because I want you to share with people what you're doing today and really kind of what the next momentum and the next iteration, generation, version, X-teen point, whatever of Jay Baer is right now. Can you share that with everybody?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm in the next sort of cycle, and people who are in the kind of content creation, speaking, writing business sort of go through cycles. It's very similar to the music business, right? You write a new album, you tour behind the album, you write another album. That's kind of how it works. So I just put out a couple of weeks ago a brand new comprehensive research report on consumer patience and business responsiveness, Lou. It's called The Time to Win. And it's all about how our relationship with time and waiting and speed has changed, partially just because of the nature of technology, partially because of the pandemic. And it turns out that speed is the most important element of customer experience. And businesses typically are not nearly fast enough, and are not putting enough effort and emphasis on speed and responsiveness. So it's a whole new research report that just came out. There's a speech that is just coming out on that as well, that I'll be giving hopefully all around the world over the next year or two. And maybe if it goes well, it'll be a book as well. So focused a lot on speed and responsiveness as a core issue right now, and drinking a lot of tequila.
I'm gonna divide this podcast episode up into these two pieces, into time to win and some of our favorite south of the border beverages. So first of all, time to win. I agree with this statement that speed is of utmost importance. And to your point, most people aren't delivering on that speed. So to keep brand equity, your brand connection, your customers happy, or in what you do all the time to keep your customers, how best can people adapt to this time continuum that will be impossible to always live up to, specifically because our demands are so rapid and so quick?
The thing we have to understand is the recipe is not always speed is better. There is a point at which you can be too fast. So we've got this principle I call the right now. The right now is sort of the Goldilocks zone for responsiveness. And essentially, Lou, it is slightly faster than customers expect you to be. That's the Goldilocks zone. Because if you're too fast, what happens is customers are shocked and awed, and then they get weirded out and concerned. So you ever go to a Mexican food restaurant, and I know the answer is yes, because we're going to talk about tequila eventually, and you order some enchiladas, and they bring you your enchiladas in like 45 seconds, and you're like, wait a minute, this is not possible. No one can make enchiladas this fast. These enchiladas were already made and they were sent back to the kitchen and under a light, and they just turned around and handed me. I am no longer a believer in the equity of these enchiladas. You also don't want to go to the fastest tattoo artist in town in most cases. So there's a point at which speed is a disservice, but generally speaking, it is true that faster equals more customer satisfaction. And in this research, we actually proved a lot of correlation between responsiveness and revenue, that if you are as fast or faster than customers expect, when you sort of get that right now, then it creates emotional resonance, it creates revenue, it creates loyalty, it creates lots of good things that business wants. And yes, other dimensions of customer service and customer experience are important. Empathy is important. Personalization is important. Omni-channel is important. All that stuff is important. But if you spell my name wrong, but I get quick service, I will overlook that.
Yeah.
And the opposite is not necessarily the case.
Just for the record, for American Airlines, I think the right now is any time within a 24-hour period between whether you land the team. But I totally get you that we are set with these expectations that are challenging. And I like this, that you have to find that right happiness for each customer, and each industry is different. So helping people to message to that, is that actually something that we used to push to? I want to rewind back in the day when you and I were about the same age. Listeners, he's definitely kept his hair better than I have. But Jay, we both will agree that the term fast food was a real important thing because people wanted their food quickly over that time. And there was a whole era where things were focused on that particular thing. So we built up that message. So showing speed in messaging was key. I don't think that's the case here today. I think the way that people have to message, somehow they have to highlight that they're going to fit the needs of what their customer are, or are they going to feature on a bunch of other values and then surprise people with timely delivery?
Depends on the business, Lou. You can still be disproportionately fast in a category to the degree that it becomes your competitive differentiator, the moat around your business. Harder today than it used to be, of course, because speed expectations have ratcheted up so dramatically, and customers now expect things quickly. But there are businesses like, do you know Pal's Sudden Service?
Yeah, I say
yeah. So I mean, it's sudden service. It's in the name, right? It's about a 200 store fast food chain in the Southeast, and their average drive-through order is 20 seconds. Fast food average, including Arby's, McDonald's, Burger King, is 76 seconds. So it is like dramatically faster than everybody else, even in the same category, which is why it's not just called Pal's Hamburgers, it's called Pal's Sudden Service, right? So if you can own it, you should own it. It's just harder than ever to own it. But ultimately, I think from this messaging perspective, it's all about setting expectations, because there's no such thing as inherently fast or inherently slow. It's, is it faster or slower than I anticipated? And we're very careful in the research to phrase it that way. Because again, if you're looking for a kidney transplant, you've got a different expectation than if you're looking for, lasagna or something else. So the messaging is really all about expectation and level setting. But I'll tell you one thing that we found in this research, Lou, that's really interesting is that 83% of customers now say that they expect businesses to be as fast or faster than they were before the pandemic. And where this ties back to your question about messaging is how many times have you seen, as recently as, I don't know, today, a business that on their website or on their front door or somewhere in a very prominent location, it says, hey, we're sorry, it's going to take you 7 years to get a sweater because supply chain or shipping issues or blame China. And customers do not give a crap anymore. They want it right, and they want it right now. You don't get to use the pandemic as an excuse any longer, even if it's valid.
Okay, so with all of that, I guess the adage, the customer's still always right. That still bears truth somewhere in there in your plan, that we still have to make sure that we meet their needs.
I would never say it that way. In fact, I say this on stage all the time. Anybody who says the customer is always right has never run a business. The customer is by no means always right, but the customer should always be listened to and responded to.
So, and I'm with you on this. I think that what I find challenging are the businesses that don't need to be so time sensitive, that are still feeling the pressure because the world has adapted to that. I'll use financial services instance. I'm going to tell you an instance right now. Due to all of the security concerns that we have in this world, in cyberland or whatever it might be, one of my investment firms that I deal with personally has a ridiculous barrier of secure messaging and secure emails and passwords and things that need to get through that normally I would have a LastPass account or something that links right to it and I could just zip right through it. But it's cumbersome. But I do understand that there are legitimate security reasons why I have this. And I start out upset from the beginning because my expectations of other industries have skewed across this. In that realm, the ones that are dealing with this whole part of this, how can organizations try to temper things that they know that they can't make faster? Yeah. They just have to be able to adapt the expectations, as you're saying, in certain ways, even though that might still be unrealistic because of what industry they're in.
Yeah, the answer is probably both. I suspect that, and I've done a lot of work in FinServ, they can probably make it faster. Can they make it instant? No. But the same way that regulated industries often use, well, we can't do social media because we're regulated, which is not true. Sometimes they use their industry as a rationale for not having to improve. So they probably can make it marginally faster. But ultimately, if you message it correctly and you set the expectations and say, not just, well, we're banking, so we can't do it. You have to say, here's why. Yeah. Like the customer just wants an explanation, right? They just want to know why. And why can't be because we didn't want to spend the money or because we're lazy or we don't have a good IT department or whatever the circumstances are. You just have to have a good explanation and then they will typically understand. But I will say it is a challenge, right? Because this idea that customers are like, well, you know what, that's pretty fast for a hospital or that's pretty fast for a bank or that's pretty fast for an insurance company. Like they don't think that anymore because you've got all these brand new companies. Think about Lemonade, the insurer, right? Lemonade will process a claim in 3 seconds, literally 3 seconds. So when you go to whatever insurance company you're using, which is not them, which is a legacy business that's been in the business for 100 years, and they have to process your claim in 7 days, you're like, dude, what's going on? Because they did it in 3 seconds, right? So some of these new businesses that have been built from the ground up for speed are massively disrupting some of these legacy categories.
Yeah, I like that. Just a note, as it related to the way you can message on certain things, the airline thing still gets in my way. I learned recently, not that recently, it was several years ago, but recent enough, that when you hear that there are mechanical issues on an airline and that's the reason for a delay, don't always believe there's anything wrong with the plane. Many times that could be literally, the pilot hasn't shown up. My favorite of all time was, I learned because I drank with a pilot the night before, that he was hungover and missed the flight. But this qualifies as a mechanical issue because they can't say it's a weather delay. They can't say it's other things. And they say these issues because for some reason, our focus on safety is so concerned. Well, they better get the plane right. My goodness, if there's a mechanical issue, I'm not going to get on the plane unless it's really safe or sober, whatever the pilot might be. But I
Absolutely.
there's a certain messaging that they've been trained with, but a lot of people are starting to learn about these things the more they listen to programs like this. And everyone has to become a little smarter and realistic. I only hope, to your point, that our expectations, I actually think there is a part that the customer needs to step back and say, all right, we need to give them a break a little bit, because while 3 seconds might be great on the way they file a claim, they may only pay you $3 versus, the 3,000.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All else being equal, I'd rather it be faster, as long as all else is equal.
I know you're passionate about this, and our listeners haven't had a chance to hear this. Look, one of the things that I find that you have done tremendously well is not only analyze the situations and helping marketers better understand how to keep and message that appropriately. I'd even say you're a wordsmith in certain ways. Even these titles you've come up with over the years, even Time to Win or The Right Now. The part of your job in the marketing world that you focused on, you wear lots of hats: expert, advisor, researcher, analyst, and probably even marketing creator and pioneer within that. Which of those hats do you like wearing the most, Jay?
I'm a writer first.
Okay.
So I was a writer before I was anything else. I was originally a journalism major in school. My mom was an English teacher, and so I was a writer, and then I became all the other things after that. So if I have to pick an activity or something to sort of hang my hat on, it would be that.
Got it. I love asking guests this question. I'm going to do this one early because we want to spend a lot of time talking tequila. This is incredible what you've done. You've also been thriving, and you've moved through a lot of these businesses. You founded them, sold them, marketed them off. You've had an incredible run, which means on most days, Jay, you are thriving. Yet on some days when you're a little off your game, when the color is more somber in the background of your virtual screen, he's got a nice yellow going on, almost like a blue. When you're a little off your game and you're not quite thriving, what practice do you seek, or maybe which individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track?
That's a great question, and I wish I had a good answer because I'm not very good at it. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often. I tend to be pretty upbeat, but usually I just try to work my way out of it, which sounds ridiculous, but I am not a big dweller on things. And my dad told me, he's since passed away, but he said, look, he didn't come up with this advice, but it's a good one. And he told me when I was a young kid, it's like, it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. And it's such sound counsel. And it's really easy, especially in a business like this where nobody's competition, yet everybody in the world is competition. It's really easy to get down on occasion. And so I try to keep that in mind. Like, this is a very temporary setback, and getting out of this is my responsibility and nobody else's. That's the one nice thing about being an entrepreneur and being self-employed now for nearly 30 years, is that there's nobody to blame. And some people feel that burden of pressure because of that, but I actually like it because I know if something's wrong, there's only one person to look at to fix it, and I got to do it myself. So that helps. But I am rich in friends, Lou. I really am. I've got lots and lots of good friends, and I'm so fortunate in that regard. And so usually if I'm just not feeling it, I got a regular fishing group here at home, and lots of other ways to connect with the boys, and that's usually how it goes. I should say I sit down with my wife and talk it through, but sometimes you got to fish with the boys.
The fishing works. The little box in our brain that does nothing. Fishing is that box where I could sit back and drink a little bit. I never got the ice fishing thing. I did it once in the hole, cut a hole in the lake and sit in the thing and freeze. I did it once, and I will never do it again. It was too cold. Really, maybe in my DNA.
That's not enough activity. Like, fishing is not a high. It's not exactly aerobic. At least not the kind of fishing that I do. But ice fishing, even for me, is a little docile.
I'm with you on that. Speaking of ice and on the drinks here, I want to share with the listeners something that I only learned really recently. I kind of knew, but I didn't really know about your passion for tequila. So what I want to do is kind of understand, when did you become, and I would even put you in this category, yes, because you're sommelier, you're an expert, you're a tequila teacher. When did this begin? Has this been years in the making, or as tequila kind of became a hot drink, let's say like 15 years ago? When did Jay, Baer, and agave start to get together?
I'm from Arizona originally. Spent most of my life there till I moved to the Midwest a dozen years or so ago. I went to school in Tucson, which is right near the border. So in my mid to late 20s, I started getting into mezcal and tequila, just sort of as a spirit to enjoy. And of course, being in the Southwest, it's easier to access and just sort of more of the Latino culture in general. And so a good buddy of mine sort of got into it together and have always been interested. And over the years have studied more and acquired more and collected more and learned more. I've spent lots of time in Mexico visiting with distilleries and producers and things like that. And it was always just sort of a hobby. And if somebody had a question, I'd answer one. And I had more tequila in my house than most people should. But when I stopped my podcast, Social Pros, earlier this year, which when I sold my consulting firm, I spent about a year wrapping up the podcast. It's still doing great, just won another big award, but I'm no longer on the microphone. So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the time I used to spend recording and researching the podcast. And I'm going to take that time and I'm going to create a series of tequila advice videos just for my own enjoyment and edification. And hopefully somebody likes it. And I did. And using some of the, things about content that I've learned over the years within whatever it's been now, 4 or 5 months, I am now by most accounts, the #2 tequila influencer in the world. So that surprised me a little bit. And so now I've got hundreds of thousands of followers on my tequila accounts. In fact, geometrically more than the 30-year career I have in marketing and customer experience, which is, I have to tell you, Lou, both hilarious and also somewhat maddening. But I think it goes to show you that more people care about tequila than they care about customer experience.
Wait. So I thought of that too. I was even going to go down that rabbit hole, but I want to put some component to this. I actually think, and specifically in Tequila J Baer, if you go check out his social handles and any of the links of this, I think all the years of your expertise in helping and messaging and marketing customer experience, you took the best of lessons and picked a very, very specific lane, owned it, came up with real clear, easy to understand, user-friendly content, right? All the things that you would talk about in helping to make a customer experience better in a simple, easy to go way that it's perfect. It's literally the summation of all of it with a hobby that you're passionate about, right?
Yeah, I mean, I should be good at it. Like I spent 20 years and built a whole global consulting firm, assisting the biggest companies in the world doing exactly what I just did. So right. I should know how to do it, which I'm okay with that. And somebody mentioned it to me the other day, like, one of the reasons it works is that people can tell on camera that you really care about this.
Yes.
Like it sort of bleeds through the lens and I do care about it. I think it's really cool. And obviously tequila is hot right now, which is helpful, I guess. So yeah, it's fun. In fact, I'm going to New York tomorrow for a big tequila release party.
I may have to crash. I may have to just pop.
Let me know. Dad will be in Chelsea.
Okay, I like it. So I'm actually going to be in the city tomorrow. So we'll talk about this afterwards. The time we're recording this, sometime in October, for those who are trying to figure out where we are and go back in time and meet us.
Visit us, yeah.
All right. So I have a few tequilas that I like personally, and obviously you have a range in helping to like all different types of tequilas and help people understand about them. Let's talk first of all about your personal preference and the type of tequila that you like. And we can give some basic education for those that aren't as tequila friendly and that knowledge of the different weights of tequila from Blanco, Reposado to Añejo. What do you like and what's your drink of choice?
Yeah, so there's typically 4 main categories of tequila just based on how long it sits in a barrel after it's been distilled. So Blanco is unaged. Technically, it can be aged up to 60 days. Reposado is 60 days to 364 days. Añejo is 1 to 3 years, and extra Añejo is 3+ years. And as you kind of ascend that ladder, the tequila itself gets darker in color because of the wood, and then it gets more vanilla, caramel, those kind of notes. In a shorthand way, I'd say it's more bourbon-ish.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of goes from more vodka-ish to more bourbon-ish over the years. I certainly like an extra añejo, especially in the wintertime around the fire. It's kind of got that comforting sort of style to it. But I think most people who really go down the rabbit hole with tequila ultimately end up being fans of Blancos just because you get the essence of the agave. You get the very true taste of the spirit, which is so unlike anything else that's available out there. So if I have to choose, I would probably always pick a Blanco.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm kind of in that Reposado land. I know, and I love Añejo and I love the heavier spoons, but it just, maybe it's the weight of it. Uh, and of late, the one that I've had recently, and they do have a very cool bottle, which is part of this. You're probably familiar with Dos Artes,
Yes.
like that very
Absolutely.
almost ceramic. Their bottles are beautiful, very ceramic
Yes.
looking, and sweet. I would put it under that category of all the different types of tequilas, and their reposado happen to be delicious. Their extra añejo is off the charts, one of the best I've had, but I'm a big fan as well. So
That's one of the big trends in the industry is 2/3 of the tequila volume now globally is consumed in the US.
yeah.
And the US palate is different than other parts of the world, partially because of all the processed foods that we eat and just sort of our overall kind of culture around food and beverage. And so what's happening in tequila overall is that everything is getting a little sweeter. So distilleries are making it to be sweeter naturally, but in many cases adding back sugar and other ingredients afterwards to kind of have it appeal more to American drinkers. I'm not certain that's a net positive, but they're playing the trends, and of course, there's been a lot of consolidation in the industry as well. Big companies like Diageo and folks like that, Beam Suntory, coming in and buying smaller family-owned tequila brands and then scaling them up. Casamigos is probably the best well-known example of that transition from small and a little bit more of a craft profile to very big and not craft at all.
Right. So, any interest, and I don't know this knowledge-wise, are you interested or involved in pursuing some of the production side of the business as opposed to just providing the advice side of the world?
It's not something that I've got in the works right now,
Okay.
but it's not something I've ruled out. It is very difficult to make money with a tequila brand unless you have true either big corporate resources or some kind of huge celebrity slingshot. There are many celebrity tequilas and more all the time. I have a following, but not that big of a following. So it would be a labor of love and probably not a labor of wise economic decision making to create my own tequila brand. There are something like 1,500 active tequila brands right now, so it's a tough category to break into. But never say never.
That might send you to permanent fishing trips with your guys from your wife if you're not too careful.
That is something that's permanent bachelorhood.
It's actually for another day. We've had the founder of Kohana Rum, Jason Brand, which is a sipping rum, different from all the other rum piece. And let's just say I'm very familiar with the whole process and the whole side of it, and it's quite an education. And your palate point is great to discuss how it's so unique. There's like, not only are you competing amongst all the different beverages, you're competing against every single brand within those beverages. So for, sipping rum is competing against tequila, against gin, against vodka, and whichever one becomes the hot one, and where those dollars go. The one thing that is nice though, kind of recession proof because they're always drinking. So
yeah, if any, it might even be counter cyclical.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So with that, I would love to do a little, let's do the plug section of the show. Then we're going to go down Fun Street and we'll dive down into some tequila. I'll throw that little flavor within this. Share with the listeners all the places people can find you, websites, URLs. We'll put it all in the show notes, whatever you want to share, and we'll put it in.
The research report that I mentioned at The Time to Win, you can find that at theTimeToWin.com. The report is there, infographics, videos, a whole bunch of other auxiliary information. So grab it. It will help your business regardless of what kind of business you're in, theTimeToWin.com. My twice monthly award-winning super spectacular newsletter, The Baer Facts, where I talk about marketing and customer experience lessons, book reviews, tequila reviews, etc., is thebaerfacts.com.
Awesome. And listeners, that's BAER, just so you know, not BEAR. Okay. We ready to go down Fun Street, Jay? You've been having fun.
I am ready to. I am a resident of Fun Street. I get mail at Fun Street.
The listeners need to know. If you saw his shirt, you'd understand why. But we also know that this is who he is, and his energy just comes out. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to start off with the fun stuff. Can you share what you shared with me is your all-time favorite movie?
My all-time favorite movie is This Is Spinal Tap. I've seen it a lot of times.
And why does that movie connect so much with you?
I mean, I think partially it's our age, right? It just, we kind of came of age when English hard rock bands were kind of also in that category. So it just the norms and kind of the stuff resonates with me. But I was also very into music as a younger person. I founded the radio station at my college and was really kind of into live music and concerts and all that. And so that part's great. But the performances in that movie are truly spectacular. And I have a fairly dry sense of humor when I'm on stage. I sort of like, okay, I'm just going to throw the joke out there and I'm not going to wait for people to get it. You either get it or you don't get it. And that movie is that to a T.
I love it. I love all of Christopher Guest and his troops movies. Recently, Best in Show was just on TV. The other that's one of the ones that I just get sucked into because the character development, the insanity of whatever the topic is in that documentary film style that he does is just brilliant. And we recently had a guest, and my name and who it is eluding me, but they actually had a radio dial. They hold it that goes to 11, which is still my favorite of all time. It's just so great because this one goes to 11. So big fan. All right. Speed round here. Here's how it goes. I'm going to ask you something, Jay. First thing that comes to your mind. These are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good. They basically make you drive. All right. Ready. Of late, since you're a music guy, a song that you've been loving to listen to or one that pumps you up.
I'll go with an album if I may.
Yeah.
I really like the new record from The Smile, which is a spin-off project from Tom York and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. It's their new side band, and it's really, really good. I'm a big Radiohead fan anyway, but it's excellent for just kind of having on while you're trying to work.
Perfect. A favorite food that is not a dessert.
A favorite food that is not a dessert, I will go. I'm from Nebraska originally. I was just home last weekend for a football game. So I'm going to go sweet corn, baby.
Sorry about Nebraska season so far. I know.
Oh, man.
It's very difficult.
Not just sorry about Nebraska's decade is a more appropriate apology. Thank you.
They've had a tough one. A favorite dessert.
A favorite creme brulee. Every time.
An activity you wish you did more of.
I wish I spent more time throwing darts. I really enjoy playing darts, and I used to play a lot, and I don't anymore, and I should start doing it again.
An activity you wish you did less of.
I should say drinking tequila, but it's for work.
You're sipping it. You're getting the taste. It's part of your job.
It's for work.
You don't wish you did it less.
It's just for work. I would say my own video editing.
Oh, I feel you, brother.
I mean, I used to have a relatively large company at my disposal, which I sold a year ago. And now I'm sort of back in the, how it was 15 years ago, where it's like just me and an assistant. And so all the things that I used to delegate, I've now redelegated to myself, which is, how it is. It's fine. It's fine, but I'd like to maybe not do it.
Listeners will need to know that this will be the part that we'll put in the video clip of the summary of this particular episode, just because to show that we edited it. Yeah. If I could snap my fingers, Jay Baer, and you could be anywhere in the world, where are you?
Oh, that's a great question. Probably French Polynesia. I really, really like Tahiti and those environs quite a bit. Big fan.
In the spirit of Speakeasy and our recent book launch, obviously Speakeasy takes its whole name and the theme of it from, thank you, from going into a speakeasy. So if you were to go into a speakeasy and it was an afternoon and you were to pull up, what I'm going to throw out, give me 3 brands of your hot brands of tequila that you'd like to sip along while reading a copy of Speakeasy.
Yeah, the tricky part is tequila availability is so diffuse and dispersed that I can name some brands, but who knows if they'll be there. But
we have a magic place. This is an imaginary magic place.
A magic place.
Yes.
My favorite brand is called Wild Common, owned by a National Geographic photographer, relatively new brand. Fantastic. I also love G4, letter G, number 4, one of my favorites for sure. And I will also throw out a relatively new brand, which is doing some real interesting things called Kazcanes. Kazcanes. I will say another thing to put in the show notes. I have a list of my top 20 recommended tequila brands. Go to tequila lists, plural, tequilalists.com. You can get the list and people print it out. I've got 225,000 downloads of it, which is insane. And people print it out and take it with them to the store or the bar and figure out what to.
It's awesome. Thrive Loud listeners, truly a pleasure to have the Jay Baer here. Oh, and I forgot to ask this question. Okay. What specifically are you a certified barbecue judge of? Is there a certain I've been to a bunch of these barbecue competitions, most notably Memphis in May, which still blows my mind. Is there one particular area that you specialize in? Or?
So there's actually two. This is going to get a little weird. You know, like you get like American League Baseball, National League Baseball.
Yes.
Barbecue is kind of similar. You kind of have the Memphis in May style.
Right.
And then you have the KCBS, the Kansas City Barbecue Society, which is the other style.
Okay.
And so I'm a licensed KCBS judge. I actually went to barbecue judging school, which is one of the best schools you can go to if you want to spend a weekend, you know, tasting and learning about how to judge barbecue. It is amazing the things they teach you. I'll give you an example. So they teach you in barbecue judging school that when they bring you the clamshell box and they open it up so you can judge it, you got to look in the box to make sure there's no like a nick, you know, in the styrofoam, because you, as the contestant, could be marking the box. You might say, Jay, if you see a tiny Y in the corner of the box, that's mine. I'm Lou. Give me all tens. Like it's crazy how, I mean, seriously, like I really believe like barbecue judging specificity is like higher than election security in this country. Like it is very serious, very, very serious.
You just brought to mind, I don't know if you saw recently what happened in Ohio in the fishing competition in Lake Erie. What was so crazy was, for the listeners to know this, the eventually disqualified winner, they put weights and other fish inside of fish to get the weight of the fish they caught to be heavier. But the real story was the viral video of the other contestants or competitors in this competition losing their minds and cursing out at the guy when they said, look what's inside this effing thing. It was absolutely unbelievable.
There was an article on, I read it on NPR today, actually, Lou, and it was about that. So the fishing cheating, the chess cheating, right? The guy who the grandmaster was cheating in chess, and he's got some sort of like electrodes in his bottom or something. I mean, like it's like crazy thing. And then also breaking news, huge global crisis in the Irish dancing community, that they're like judges being paid off to give students better Irish dance competition scores. Like nothing is sacred anymore. We're all doomed.
Something tells me that in the future, when there is a tequila competition and Jay is running the whole school on how to educate the people how to grade and taste the tequilas, when that happens, it'll have a more ethical way of doing it. That's what I.
It will have a more ethical way. These fishing competitions got to be by length, not weight, from now on.
It's not how big it is. Not the size of the wave. It's the ocean of the ocean.
Somebody's going to invent a fish stretcher then, right? And it's going to slowly stretch the fish, and that's going to be the new way of cheating. Oh. You know what? You can't stay ahead of the cheaters very long.
Daddy, I can't keep the goldfish. It needs 16 cases to hold it all. Hey, Baer. Truly a pleasure to have you on Thrive Loud. Thank you, my brother. Great to have you on.
I appreciate it.
To all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.